My smoke detector needs batteries. Another day, I guess. Hey, sweets. You wanna help? Hey guys! Hello, doggies! Hi! Hello! Whoa! Hi, Barbie. Hi, sweetie. You come up here? Oh! Okay. Let me come in. What's in you guys? Hello. Okay. Hey guys. Thank you. I know I was gone for a little while, huh? You guys are crazy. Let's talk about it. Today is May 27th, 2024, and a year
and a week almost. I had a flat lighting episode when I was getting labs drawn. I found out that I had a pulmonary embolism, and it kicked off like 6 months of just weird medical stuff. I call it body pranks. But you know, bodies be pranking. They're always like that. And I've in general kind of dealt with a bunch of various medical stuff like kind of throughout my life. Like I was born with a heart condition and I had to have heart surgery, and so I've just kind of always had some kind of thing you know, going on in the background. I will say in general, I've lived a pretty normal life. I haven't had many complications, but there was always this like looming fear like that I wasn't going to live very long, right? Like throughout my childhood, they would give me these benchmarks of like, oh, you're not gonna live past 5, you're not gonna live past 10, you're not gonna get to 16, and then when I did, they readjusted and they said 20, and ultimately they landed on 30. And I technically made it to 30. I turned 30 last year in late May. I had my pulmonary embolism, and that was when they discovered that I had a blood clotting disorder, and they put me on blood thinners, and things seemed to be, you know, going pretty well from that. I also had an untreated thyroid condition that they put me on medications for in November after a bunch of other weird neurological stuff. At one point they suggested it might be MS. But that was something where, you know, all of these things, you know, kept happening, and I wasn't sure what was gonna happen, you know. Hold on. These are my emotional support tissues. Hi. He's a good boy. Yeah, they weren't sure like what was happening to me for a while. I just had these like crazy things, like I couldn't feel my hands, I couldn't feel my legs, I couldn't feel my arms. I like it was almost like the sensitivity of my nerves had been dialed down, right? Like instead of feeling something like this, it would be like I can only feel 50%, or I can only feel temperature, you know, but not touch, or like I could feel pressure but not touch. And it was really interesting because, you know, like I would have these like days where I just couldn't feel anything, and I was just kind of chronically touch starved. And the idea of like that being the rest of my life just was really hard, especially as a very like affectionate person. Like the idea of like not being able to feel touch or like cuddling, like things like that was really difficult for me. I'm out of tissues. I cry a lot. Maybe I should have started with that. I go through a lot of tissues. So there was all these crazy things happening, and when they suggested it might be MS, I totally spiraled out. It wasn't MS though. They ruled it out. They said it was polyneuropathy caused by my previously untreated thyroid issues. And you know, I had been on medications for a couple weeks at that point. When I had met with my neurologist in December, and they kind of looked at everything, and they said that my medications that I was on for my thyroid stuff would help the polyneuropathy. So it was something where I would just have to wait, basically. Hello, thank you. Thank you. Oh, right in my mouth. Thank you so much, you little Frenchie. Where was I going with that? Oh, the cognitive issues, I think, were the hardest out of all of it, because like I've kind of always worked in spaces that, you know, I would say are a bit more intellectual, and you know, you're kind of you have this pride of like a legal brain, and you know, I had always really enjoyed being in a space like that and contributing to that, and I couldn't remember things. My career was not going well anymore because of the cognitive issues. I felt like I lost myself because I wasn't good at my job anymore. I always felt like I had a pretty good legal brain, and to experience like cognitive issues on top of all the medical stuff, on top of stress in general, like I just didn't feel like myself anymore. I couldn't imagine like all of these things happening, and also MS or something that like could not really be fixed. But I know with MS there's like ways to manage it, and there are people who live very full lives with it, but it was just, for me, I just was going through so much and couldn't imagine it getting worse, basically. But the cognitive stuff definitely was the most difficult out of all of it. Harvey just ate that fly that was flying around the apartment. Good job, buddy. It's been a really difficult year. May 21st was when I had my embolism, or when I discovered I had an embolism. I had a dance event and was feeling pretty bad, and so the next day I decided to go into the hospital. I walked into the ER and I just told them, like, you know, I'm feeling really short of breath. It's like a lot of energy for me to get a good breath in, and I thought maybe it was COVID. I had already had COVID a couple months before, but it was worse than that, and I felt horrible. Like I could barely get out of bed. And not just depression stuff, like I physically could not get up out of bed. So I ended up going in when they went to do labs on me to see what was going on. I fainted, which used to happen to me all the time, but I went years without fainting. Usually I warn them when I get my blood draw and stuff, and I did faint, and then I flatlined for 14 seconds. And apparently that's not normal. They did a bunch of tests, like a D-dimer, and then they did like a CT scan, I think, and they realized that I had an embolism, a pulmonary embolism, and so they decided to keep me overnight for observation, mostly because of the flatlining thing. And the next morning when they were doing labs again, I flatlined for 3 seconds, had a pause, flatlined for 3 seconds, had another pause, and then flatlined for 4 seconds. After that, they got my labs, they put me on a blood thinner, and they let me go home. I went back to work pretty much immediately, and I, you know, had some weird stuff coming up a few months after that, right? So I was mostly like going to doctors and specialists trying to figure out what was going on and why I had an embolism at 30. And that's when they discovered that I had this, you know, rare blood clotting disorder, I guess. And because of my heart surgery, I guess it made me more prone. It was a few things kind of combined, is my understanding. But in like June, July, I was just kind of bouncing back. And then by the time October rolled around, I had neurological stuff that started kicking up. By late October, they realized I had a thyroid issue, and so they put me on a thyroid medication. By the time like Thanksgiving had rolled around, you know, I'd been on the thyroid medications for a couple of weeks, and I think it kind of like hit my system, and I ended up getting very, very sick. I think I was on a 75, and they dialed it back. Because basically, like, I was so sick I couldn't keep anything down. I was like really nauseated and just like having these like dry heaving spells and like puking and stuff. And so I was already underweight because of other medical issues, and you know, my normal is about 100. I would like to be a little beyond that. But I had just gotten back to 95 pounds by the time like Thanksgiving rolled around. And so I lost all that weight, basically, that it took me 7 months to gain back. And I was very discouraged. You know, I suddenly was like 85 pounds, and that's way too skinny. I ended up getting hospitalized for a little bit, and it was weird. The little flatlining stuff randomly stopped. Like in October, I had like gone in and asked them to do a CT. They did. They didn't see anything. I thought I was for sure having a stroke or a TIA, because my mom had those a lot, and I wasn't. I asked them to check again the next day because it got worse, and they did an MRI and they didn't see anything. And so they're like, you're not having a stroke, you're not having a TIA, we don't know what it is, it might be MS. And so I kind of sat with that for a couple of months. I was like kind of starting to feel a little bit better, and then suddenly I was very, very sick. Like, was really feeling like my body's not getting better. My mental health was suffering a lot because my body wasn't getting better, and it didn't seem like any news I was getting was good news. It was all a rough prognosis, I guess. And when they had thrown out the idea of MS, I just spiraled really hard, thinking like, oh, this is only going to get worse. Now that I've had some time and they realized it wasn't MS, I've, you know, heard more about people who have MS and have perfectly fulfilling lives. And, you know, it wouldn't have probably been as bad as I thought it might be, but it is pretty bad, right? So I got to some really dark places with that. I saw my neurologist right before the end of the year, and he told me that, yeah, I have polyneuropathy. It's not MS, you know, and my thyroid stuff would be getting better. The nerve stuff, I call them cranky nerves, would get better, and it would just take time. I did also have some cognitive issues that came up, and it definitely impacted my work and my personal life and just day-to-day living. I couldn't remember what I was doing half the time. I couldn't keep things straight. I couldn't prioritize things as well. My work definitely suffered from that. I ended up getting let go from my job, and that was something that really hit me pretty hard, and I just spiraled, you know, feeling like I had failed professionally, I had failed personally, my body wasn't doing well, it didn't seem like things were really going to get better for a long time. The cognitive stuff I was told might get a little bit better with my medications that I'm on, because there's like some brain fog stuff and memory issues and things like that that come from thyroid issues. But I just didn't have faith in that. So this last year, so from last May to now, I'd been kind of taking a bit of a pause from other things. And like one hobby that I like to do is go out and leave flowers for people who have passed. And I decided to go out and see flowers kind of for myself, in a way, like leaving flowers for myself. For my death anniversary, is what I call it, I decided to leave flowers for myself at a hiking spot that I really enjoy, Trillium Lake, right off of Mount Hood. And it was this really beautiful snow hike, and the trailhead had been closed off, so it was longer than it normally would have been, and it was probably like 5 miles. And there were spots where I ran in the snow with Sweetie. It was just exhilarating. It was one of the first times I felt alive in a long time. I'm seeing things start to get better. I'm starting to feel better. My brain is starting to bounce back. And when I started experiencing those cognitive issues, especially in the field of work I was in, and my identity was pretty closely tied to it, and having a legal brain that could contribute positively in a legal space and hopefully make a good impact to advocate for people. But I lost that throughout this process, and I feel like I'm just now starting to get it back. I feel like I'm starting to live again, which is weird. You know, like, it took basically dying a couple of times to, like, feel alive, I guess. I have spent so much of my life focused on that 30, right? I spent a lot of time worrying about what happens when I get to 30. I put off a lot of things because I didn't think I would get to it, right? Like, I've gotten close to getting married a couple of times, and I just never felt like it was fair to, like, leave someone, a family, behind. So I put it off. And I felt like I was so obsessed with, like, living life that I wasn't really. I was so stressed about, like, going out and doing things, like that YOLO mentality, but it's, like, worse because it was pretty real for me. And it still is. But after I went through all of that, I realized it's, like, not really a big deal, you know? I don't recommend it, by the way. But, you know, it changed it. It changed it for me. By the time my 31st birthday rolled around this year, it felt like a real birthday for me. It felt like I could actually live now. And this crazy medical stuff that I'm still processing a year later, and I'm just happy to be here in general, but I feel like I should have done more to set myself up for success, like, rather than just, like, being so focused on living life now. I feel like that YOLO mentality was probably irresponsible, but I did go on a lot of adventures. I did do a lot of things, and I feel like I've seen a lot of cool stuff. So it's hard to know if I went about it in the right way. I have this piece of, like, I've lived an interesting life. I don't know if it's a good life. Maybe, probably, but I think it's at least interesting. And I hope that I've been a force of good. I hope I've been a good, positive influence on the people in my life. And I hope that I do good and I do right by people. The good news, I guess, throughout all of this is, like, since I went through so much and I got through it and I survived it, you know, it doesn't seem like as big of a deal now. You know, a lot of people say I'm maybe a little too casual about it. When my last flatlining episode happened, it was just a little blip. It was only 2 seconds, I think. But I felt like I barely made it back. Then they randomly stopped. I'm not sure why. Maybe because I had started thyroid medication and that was able to, like, regulate my levels. Like, it was 14 right before they started me on medications, and then it dropped down to 2, and that's when I got very, very sick. And I haven't had a flatlining thing since then, but that fear is still there that it might happen. So when I went in for labs today, I was really worried. You know, it's just been a really difficult week for me in general. I'm tired. Ended up dropping weight again, so I'm only 91 pounds right now. I have an appointment with my primary care provider next week. We had to do a bunch of labs, and so because of the vasovagal response and the flatlining stuff, The normal lab tells me that I can't go there. They tell me to go to the ER, which I think is ridiculous, but I do it because I need to get my labs done. And the last time I went, they said I couldn't get my labs done at the ER, and then they sent me back to the lab, and the lab said that they weren't going to do it. So I went back in today. It's Memorial Day. The labs are closed today, which, okay. But they were like, we're going to have to figure something else out so you can get your labs done without having to go through the ER. And I've been saying this for months. They always act like I'm the drama queen. I am, but for different reasons. They hooked me up to a monitor, and nothing happened. And they got 6 or 7 tubes. They said I was good to go, so they discharged me. And as I was leaving the parking lot, they called me and they said, just kidding, we need you to do 3 more. I'm so sorry. And so I turned back around, went back into the ER. They did another draw. I felt a little sick that time, but I was okay. Nothing happened. So I got like 10 or 11 tubes drawn today. It almost felt like a suicide mission. I don't have it in me to keep doing this, and it's exhausting. It's so exhausting to be sick. Like, I lost weight again. Things come up where my weight drops very suddenly. Well, I've been working on getting my weight back for 2 years, and it's so tiring, and I just didn't think I had it in me. Like, if the flatlining happened, I was like, that's gonna be lights out. Like, I barely made it back last time. It's been 6 months, basically, and I'm hoping that from now on, it'll be fine, and that things will get better, and my body will bounce back, and I'm starting to see some of the cognitive stuff bounce back. I've been thinking about it a lot this week, probably because of the death anniversary, if I can even call it that. You know, I think about, like, would I do this year again? And honestly, probably not. If I could go back and just, like, not come back, I probably wouldn't have if I knew it was going to be like this. But I will say, moving forward, I do think that, you know, things are going to get better, and that it won't be so hard. And there will be a point where I'll be glad that I did fight so hard. You know? Yeah. Honestly, a big part of it is, like, Sweetie needs a mom. She needs someone to pet her. Okay, I need a break. I need a break. All right, I guess the gang's all here, huh? I had a couple of things I wanted to add. I took a little bit of time to cry, mostly process, you know, what I just talked about, and edit what I just filmed, and then hang out with these doggies. Yeah. Hi. Also, this is Harvey. I'm dog sitting. This is Sweetie. You guys know her, but Harvey's a old pal of ours. And he steals all her toys, as you can see. Anyway, this year's been really hard. It's probably been the worst year that I've been through. But it led to some positive things, I think. Before starting at my job, I was pretty convinced I was going to go to law school, but I kind of changed my perspective on how I feel about the legal industry. And I realized that law school might not be something I can cognitively do anymore. And I hope that's not the case. I hope I could still do it. But, you know, just the work-life balance in the legal field can be hard to find. And I think ultimately it doesn't really align with a type of environment that I need to be in. At my last job, I don't think that environment was really set up for my success. And it's unfortunate because I did really like that job. But failing in that environment taught me a lot about myself. It kind of forced me to separate a little bit from my profession and just reevaluate what I wanted to do. I have gone to more flower shows this year, and that's been really cool to see all the really pretty flowers, learn a lot about flowers, and it's also given me some opportunity to travel to see flowers. I'm still doing the projects where I'm leaving flowers for people who have passed. I'm hoping now that my brain's coming back a little bit more that I can take all the footage that I have over the last couple of years and start editing projects and completing and publishing these projects. And so I'm going to be working pretty hard to do that, starting my own business. You know, I've had a lot of support in that, you know, especially after all this stuff happened with my last job. But, you know, it seems like things are starting to come together, and I'm really excited for it. I really hope it works. I hope I can find success and freedom in that. It's been a wild ride. I have people who support me and love me. They're the only reasons I'm here, really. I have Sweetie. She's the best doggy ever. Hardy's a good boy too. I have some upcoming trips that I'm really excited about. Some involve the leaving flowers for people who have passed. Some are just flower things for myself, and I think it's been a better mix. And I'm glad that I took the traditional year of mourning. I did it in a bit of a different way, but you know, I added in some more things just for me, and I tried not to focus so much on other things and doing all these projects and really stressing myself out. I really tried to just focus on my health and my healing, and you know, I kind of reconnected with my faith, and I think ultimately that's been a really good thing. This year, while very difficult, has provided me many opportunities to try new things, to have these fun little opportunities, and I'm hoping that things will keep getting better and that this will ultimately be something that nets something positive. I've been very lucky to for one, be here, to have been through this experience, and to hopefully come out stronger on the other side of it. I really hope that things are pivoting in a positive direction and that I can keep moving forward. For Halloween, I was a vampire and I made a coffin that you saw earlier. I still have it, it's in my closet. But before I moved into this place, I didn't really have room for it, so it was just sitting up in my room. And people would come over and be like, "Is that a coffin?" Just having that love and support from people and being reminded that people notice me in my life, and that I make a positive impact, I think has helped a lot. I forget people notice me sometimes, and in general, I'm a pretty lonely person, and this has offered me a opportunity to reconnect with friends and family and my community and my faith. I've been able to try different stuff, like, you know, going to flower shows. I didn't realize how much I would love it. I've always loved flowers, but, you know, to go out and to travel to see flowers, and I've really made it a point to, like, go out and be in nature. You know, go to these different gardens, see a bunch of wildflowers especially, are some of my favorites. And like, I got to see like an orchid display. It was at the Smithsonian, and it was like orchids and art, and that was really neat. And, you know, I've gotten to see like some botanical gardens, and it's just something that, like, I haven't prioritized enough because, you know, I was so wrapped up in this project of leaving flowers for other people. I feel like this year has almost been like that traditional year of mourning where, you know, I was trying not to focus on other things. I will say I still went to parties and stuff because I am still very social, but I've been trying to be more mindful of things and not just going to do stuff because I was afraid of missing out or because I was bored at home. Like, I wanted to do things that I felt were more enriching for me personally. And that's been really great. Some of these cases that I've been working on, sometimes I feel like I'm the only one who cares. And sometimes it's almost like, what's gonna happen if I'm not here to do it? Other people care. When I die, again, I guess, when it sticks, when I'm done, I hope there's some kind of legacy or, you know, some kind of impact that happens. You know, I would love for people to go out and leave flowers for other people, even ones they don't know. I definitely go out of my way to do that, and that's something that's really special and sweet for me. My obsession with death is a big part of that, and I understand why other people might not want to confront it in that way or want to have a relationship with grief and grieving in that way. I will say, when I flatlined, a couple of my friends sent me flowers and I cried like a baby. You know, like being like, oh, you know, that's a thing people do. It's not just me. I'm not the only one who cares. And in the last year, my friends and my family and my community have really come through for me, and they've really shown up and been there for me, and to feel that love, to feel that support, and to just feel like my relationships with people have gotten deeper, and to feel like life has gotten better. I don't feel as lonely as I used to. I used to be pretty closed off, so this has definitely opened me up more. It's definitely stirred up a lot of emotions, clearly, but I think it was something that I needed. I've had a lot of really cool experiences, especially this year, and I'm excited to share them with people. I hope people enjoy it, and I hope I can be around long enough to finish the ones that I've already started and hopefully do more. It's something that matters a lot to me, to pay respect in that way. Sorry for the clickbait. You know, I guess I didn't like die. I mean, I did kind of. I don't know what the medical definition is of medical death, right? Because like my heart stopped, but I don't know if that necessarily means I actually died. But I really hope you enjoyed. I appreciate you guys listening, and here's to another year. So this is a former dead person signing off, I guess. Bye.